Have you ever wondered who really owns Sabah? Have you ever asked yourself why two different countries talk about it like it's theirs? It's a bit of a puzzle, isn't it? Have you ever thought about where the name Sabah even came from and what it means to the people who call it home? What do they think about all this talk? What does the law say about it all, and what story does history tell? Have you ever pictured what would happen if the line on the map suddenly moved one day? It's a lot to get your head around, I know. But these are the questions we need to ask. We're going to look into all of this. We will try to understand the whole picture, bit by bit. It's not about taking sides, you see. It's about being curious and fair. We'll look at old papers and new feelings. Before we get into the thick of it, there's one big question that stands out from all the others. If a top court or a big new deal said that Sabah should go back to the Philippines, what would happen then? Keep watching until the end for the answer. Please subscribe and like for just 3 seconds. Right, let's turn back the clock a bit. It helps to know where we've come from. A long, long time ago, the land we now call Sabah wasn't part of any big country. It was a place of its own, with its own rulers. It was part of the vast Sultanate of Brunei for a good while. Then in the 1600s, the Sultan of Brunei gave the eastern part of Sabah to the Sultan of Sulu. It was a thank you gift for helping win a war. This gift is where the whole thing really starts. Fast forward to the late 1800s, European powers were sailing the seas, Baron von Overbeck, Alfred Dent. In 1878, they made a deal with the Sultan of Sulu. It's the most important document in the debate. The Sultan granted rights over the land. In return, he would get a yearly payment. The modern argument, was it a sale or a lease? After that deal, Dent and Overbeck formed the British North Borneo Company. The company got a royal charter and ran Sabah like its own little country. They set up towns, built railways, managed the land's resources. They kept making the yearly payments. This went on for decades. Then World War II, the Japanese occupied the area. In 1946, the company handed control to the British government. Sabah became a British Crown colony, and the rights moved to the Crown. The Sultan of Sulu's claim remained. Payments continued, but ownership questions persisted. In 1963, a new plan, Sabah, Malaya, Sarawak, Singapore, would form a new country, Malaysia, a huge moment, but not everyone was happy. So why does the Philippines feel it has a claim to Sabah? It all goes back to that deal in 1878. The Philippines argues that the Sultan of Sulu never sold the land. They say he only leased it. The word they use from the original document is pajak, which can mean lease. Pajak, which can also be read as mortgage. They believe the Sultanate of Sulu only gave the British company the right to use the land, not to own it forever. This is the cornerstone of their whole argument. They say you can't sell what was only ever rented in the first place. The Sultanate of Sulu doesn't exist as a state anymore. So the Philippines says that the rights of the old Sultanate were passed down to the Republic of the Philippines. They argue that when the British handed Sabah over to Malaysia in 1963, they were giving away something that wasn't theirs to give. It's like a tenant handing over the keys without the landlord's permission. They also point to the yearly payments. Malaysia still pays a small amount each year to the descendants of the Sultan of Sulu. The Philippines says this is proof the original deal was a lease. Why else would you keep paying rent? They call it cession money, not rent. But for the Philippines, it's a reminder the issue was never fully settled. Finally, there's a cultural argument. People in the southern Philippines share languages, traditions, a history of trade, and family ties with some in Sabah. Before modern borders, people moved freely across the Sulu Sea. For some, bringing Sabah into the fold would be like reuniting a family divided by colonial map-making. It's a powerful and emotional part of their claim that goes beyond just old legal documents. Now let's look at it from the other side. Malaysia has a very different view, and it's just as strongly held. For Malaysia, the most important point is what the people of Sabah themselves decided. In 1962, a commission called the Cobalt Commission was sent out to Sabah and Sarawak. Their job was to find out what the people there wanted. They went around and spoke to people. They held meetings. The commission found about 2/3 were in favor of joining Malaysia. This idea is called self-determination, a major principle in international law. It says people should choose their own government and future. Malaysia says the people of Sabah exercised this right in 1963. They chose to be part of Malaysia. The United Nations came and confirmed the findings. For Malaysia, that choice matters more than an 1800s document. Malaysia reads the 1878 agreement differently. They say it was a sale, a full transfer. The original text uses a phrase meaning forever, until the end of time. The yearly payment was, they say, a session payment, a final payment made in installments, not rent. For Malaysia, Sabah has been integral for over 60 years. They have invested heavily in roads, schools, hospitals. People born in Sabah are Malaysian citizens. They carry Malaysian passports. They vote. They serve. It's a settled fact, part of national identity. Let's step away from the politics and ask, what is life actually like for the people in Sabah? It's a beautiful place for a start. It's famous for Mount Kinabalu, amazing rainforests, stunning islands with coral reefs. Many people's jobs are connected to it through tourism, to dive, climb, and see the orangutans. The economy isn't just about tourism. Sabah is rich in natural resources, oil, natural gas, and palm oil. For many people, these industries provide jobs, but like anywhere, there are challenges. Some feel the wealth doesn't always reach local communities. The people are incredibly diverse. Over 30 indigenous groups like Kadazan Dusun, Bajau, Murut, plus many families of Chinese and Malay descent. This mix is what makes Sabah so unique. Day-to-day life focuses on children's education, cost of food, a good, stable job, safe streets, and decent healthcare. Historical claims are in the background, but most people are busy making a living and building a good life. Their identity is often tied to local community or ethnicity more than a grand political question, you know. So let's play a game of what if. What if Sabah did become part of the Philippines? Would there be any good things that might come out of it for the people living there? Some people might say yes. For some communities, with strong family and cultural ties to the South, it could feel like a homecoming. It might strengthen their sense of identity and belonging. Families might find it easier to connect. There's the economic side. The Philippines might promise to pour money and resources into areas that feel left behind. New schools, better hospitals, more support for small farmers and fishermen. A change in government could bring different opportunities. New trade links with the rest of the Philippines, new markets, different rules around jobs and investment, new kinds of work, better conditions in some sectors. Some indigenous groups might feel they'd get a better deal. Greater autonomy, more control over ancestral lands. The Philippines has its own systems for indigenous rights some might see as more protective. It's about finding the best way to preserve their heritage. It's a gamble, but some might see it as one worth taking. Of course, there's another side to this coin. For many people in Sabah, the idea of leaving Malaysia and joining the Philippines would be very worrying. The biggest fear would be uncertainty. Everything would change. The legal system, the currency, the language of government, the school curriculum, IDs, passports, licenses. This kind of massive change would be disruptive and confusing for everyone. It could take years, even decades, to settle. The economic shock could be huge. Sabah's economy is deeply integrated with Malaysia's. Many people work for Malaysian companies and the Malaysian government. What happens to jobs, pensions, savings? Trade with the rest of Malaysia would face new borders, tariffs and regulations. The disruption could be immense. Then there is identity. Many, perhaps most in Sabah, see themselves as Malaysian. Being told they are now Filipino would be a profound shock that challenges who they are. There are concerns about stability and security. The southern Philippines has faced insurgency and instability. Some might fear a decline in law and order. Malaysia is, by and large, stable and peaceful. Many would be reluctant to trade peace and predictability for an unknown future. They would prefer the stability they have now. So, where does all this leave us? It's clear this isn't a simple problem with an easy answer. It's a complex tangle of history, law, money, and human feelings. Yelling across the sea won't solve anything. The only sensible way forward is calm, careful talks. Leaders need to sit down and discuss the issue with respect. This isn't about winning or losing. It's about a peaceful, fair solution, especially for the people in the middle. The law has a part to play. International courts like the ICJ can handle disputes like this. A neutral ruling on the 1878 treaty and other documents could help, but both sides must agree and accept the outcome. Ultimately, the most important voices are those of the people who live in Sabah. Any solution imposed without genuine consent is bound to fail. A fair path means a clear democratic process, perhaps a referendum, monitored by a neutral body. Plans must protect rights, support the economy, keep the peace, and respect cultures and languages. Building trust is essential. It's slow, but it's the way to a future that benefits the people who call Sabah home. Now, we come back to that one big question we asked at the start. The one we promised to answer. If a court or a formal agreement suddenly decided that Sabah should be returned to the Philippines, would the people living there actually want to make that change? Would they pack up their Malaysian identity and become citizens of the Philippines? After looking at all the different sides, the honest answer is that it is very, very unlikely that a majority would want to. The answer is not a simple yes or no, but a complex mix of feelings. Some might welcome the change for cultural reasons, some might welcome the change for economic reasons, but a great many would not, because of people's jobs, their children's education, their pensions, their sense of security, the fear of economic chaos, and the disruption to daily life. People generally prefer the stability they know over a future they don't. Cultural and family links to the Philippines are real, but for many, they're part of a distant past. The connections that matter day to day are within Malaysia. What matters most is to listen. The voices of the people who live and work in Sabah must be the loudest in the room. The future should be shaped by them, peacefully and fairly. Subscribe for more amazing contents. Keep wondering. Don't miss out on future explorations and discoveries. Hit subscribe and ring the bell to stay updated with our new content. Your journey of wonder continues with every video. Stay connected and engaged on social media. Continue the conversation, follow us. Thank you for being a part of the Have You Ever Wondered community. Keep wondering, keep discovering. Until next time.